Breaking news, everybody. This is a kind of late in the day video, but this just happened. I thought we'd talk about it. So this coming to us from the Hollywood Reporter. Marvel Studios veteran Victoria Alonso exits studio. So this is a big story. And exits is a nice word of saying was thrown out on your rear end, told to hit the bricks. But yeah, Victoria Alonso, one of the top decision makers at Marvel Studios, executive producer. She has had her name and fingerprints on all the major releases of Phase 4 and 5, and she has been shown the door. And so let's talk about that a little bit. Victoria Alonso, first of all, I don't understand how she ever got this job. This is somebody who's publicly stated that she hates the X-Men and never wants to see them in the MCU because she thinks they're problematic because their name has the name men in it, so it's sexist. This is the kind of person, I mean, how would you ever have somebody who has that? You can have that viewpoint, fine, but then don't run the studio that is in charge of the X-Men. I don't know. But anyway, so she has been one of the top producers for Marvel Studios for a number of years now. She's been with the studio forever, I think since just about the beginning. She was a VFX supervisor during the original Iron Man movie. I think she was probably pretty good at her job back then because the effects back then were really good. And when they took her, out and made her more of an executive producer position, then that's when not only the movie started really going downhill, but the effects started really going downhill along with them. So that maybe just upset the balance of things. But anyway, so she has been fired, most likely. I mean, the article, again, just says that she suddenly left her position. But when you are an executive of this level and you suddenly leave your position, you have been fired. That's how it works in the corporate world. But they're being nice, and they're going to just say, yeah, we've decided to part ways. She came into work today thinking everything was fine. She went to lunch, and after a phone call, we've parted ways. And her belongings were put into a box, and we're waiting at the door of the building for her. So a lot of people are pointing to some rumors that are around that Bob Iger has had a really big hand in her being given her walking papers, and a lot of it was directly as a result of the very, very poor performance of Ant-Man Quantumania. That was just kind of the final nail in the coffin here. And when you've got an IP that is as valuable as Marvel, and that the studio's used to being as profitable as Marvel, and has been going steadily downhill for so long, eventually somebody's got to be held accountable for that, and that time is now, and that somebody is Victoria Alonso. So, according to Hollywood Reporter, she's been with the studio for forever, since Iron Man. She started off as VFX supervisor, eventually worked her way up, became an EP, and has really been in charge of running things since just a little before 2020. Yeah, I mean, if we look at, she was a co-producer on Iron Man 2, the original Thor, Captain America, the original Avengers movie, all these movies that she was just kind of a co-producer. I'm sure they probably had her in for the visual effects components, which would make sense because it seems to be her strength. But yeah, the later stuff where she has been, one of the primary architects of the MCU, basically Phase 4 and 5, has been a disaster, and her fingerprints are all over it. There's no way to go. But this is buried way down here, I think is interesting. In addition to her behind-the-scenes work, Alonso has been an important ambassador for the studio's representation efforts, who was outspoken during the Disney's dispute with Florida over the Don't Say Gay bill. And this, I think, is a bigger part than a lot of people think, because let's just time travel back to August of last year. So Florida introduces this bill. A lot of Disney employees are being really loud and making their voices heard, which is fine. They have the rights to do that. But Disney as a corporation is saying, we're going to stay neutral. We're not politicians. We don't need to get involved in this. So officially, our position is our employees don't like it, that is a perfectly fine stance to take. But Victoria Alonso, she calls then CEO Bob Chapek directly and tells him he needs to take a stand against against this LGBTQ legislation. We're not going to go into the bill and whether or not it does or doesn't do anything anybody says, but she was really in his ear telling him he needed to take up that fight. And so he does. And if you haven't seen the results, they've been disastrous for Disney since they decided to dip their toe into the waters of fighting this political battle. They have lost their tax exempt status for Disney World in Florida. They've lost a lot of their business perks. And then just recently, like just a couple of weeks ago, they lost the ability to to run the land that Disney World sits on. I mean, they have been hit tremendously hard by the backlash of them deciding to get into this bill, this fight, which ultimately is what led to Bob Chapek getting fired. And now I believe, since the result or the news about them losing even control of the land that Disney World sits on, that's a fairly new development. I think that's really the big thing that did in Victoria Alonso as well, because if she doesn't call Chapek to get into this fight, I don't know that he does. She was the biggest name calling for it. So that's very interesting to me that she was asked to leave so quickly after that latest blow to Disney's business about the land that Disney World is sitting on. That compounded with Ant-Man, there's just no way. There's just no way that you can keep her with the studio. She's been a part of too many disasters for Disney at this point. So, that's it. If you're somebody who has not been a fan of the way the Disney or the Marvel movies have been run since Phase 4 and moving forward, as well as the Disney Plus shows, then this is probably very good news for you, and you are pretty happy because one of the main architects is gone. And hopefully whoever they bring in to fill her shoes is somebody that's going to attempt to bring the MCU back to what it was that made fans excited about it, try to give a little bit better adaptation of these characters onto the screen, something the fans really can look forward to. I was looking at the projects that she was really directly involved in that are coming out, and they're basically like Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which we already know is too far in production. It's going to come out. Plus, that's just James Gunn's baby. It's his creative vision. I don't think the studio really was able to do too much about it. Then you have the Secret Invasion, which again is pretty much done. But then after that, it's Ironheart, Echo, and Agatha Coven of Chaos. And with what we're hearing from Bob Iger, where he's saying that they're going to be reducing the output of Star Wars and Disney Marvel, and cutting costs and cutting at Disney Plus and all this other stuff. I don't know if I would be surprised if all of those things hit. I wouldn't be shocked if we lose 3 out of 4 of those, maybe, or at least 2, because Secret Invasion I think is going to come out no matter what. Ironheart, I really don't know how far along that is, but Agatha and Echo, I think those 2 things are chopped. I really do. I'm speculating that Ironheart is probably going to meet the same kind of grim fate. Secret Invasion will probably limp its way onto Disney Plus, and then that'll be kind of the end of Victoria Alonso's reach. Her impact on the MCU will be over at that point, and they're going to move forward with going something else. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if we saw some reshuffling as a result of this. So that's it. Breaking news. One of the major heads of the Marvel Studios is done. She's gone. Going forward. So what do you guys think? Are you excited for going forward? Do you think this is a good move? Is it too little, too late? Let's talk about it in the comments below. While you're down there, do all the usual stuff. Hit like, subscribe to the channel if you're not already a subscriber, and I'll see you on the next video.